I'm Alex. I'm one of the exercise physiologists here at My Bariatric Solutions. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their evening to meet with me to discuss your heart rate and exercise. And what does your heart rate mean during exercise? More or less, basically, we use heart rate to just measure exercise intensity. And that's basically going to be what we discuss throughout this PowerPoint. Is using heart rate as a measure of your exercise intensity. So let's go over a few basic physiology that goes into your heart rate. Anytime you move large muscle groups in the body, these muscles are going to require increased oxygen to perform whatever movement it is. In that case, your heart needs to pump faster and deliver more oxygen to those working muscles. Since exercise involves using many small and large muscles, this is going to result in a significant increase in your heart rate and its pumping ability, and that's what we refer to as the heart rate response to exercise. So we're going to take a quick look at the big picture here of where heart rate fits into the cardiac output. Think of cardiac output, it's everything that your heart can do. It's equal to the stroke volume, and that's basically just the amount of blood that's pumped each heartbeat. It's used as a measure of overall health of your cardiovascular system and also the intensity of the actions that it's performing. So during exercise, of course, your body, it may need 3 to 4 times what your normal cardiac output is while you're resting. So your heart can do one of two things. It can increase the heart rate, or it can increase the stroke volume, which is the amount pumped. And so generally speaking, anytime we start to exercise, we're going to see an increase in both. We're going to see an increase in heart rate and in stroke volume as well. So if you look at the equation down below, we've got cardiac output. It just equals stroke volume times heart rate. So heart rate is only a part of the puzzle, but in our case, it's the one that gives us the greatest insight, and it's the one that's the most easily attainable and easily measurable. Real quick, we're just going to go through some things that you may not be aware that negatively affect your heart rate. So we're going to look at a few things real fast. Sedentary lifestyle, poor nutrition, those behaviors, smoking as well can certainly influence your heart health. When you carry extra weight around, your muscles and your heart have to work twice as hard to move that blood and oxygen around to supply those muscles with the energy that they need to perform the movements. Smoking robs your body of oxygen, and all that does is make your heart beat faster to move that blood and oxygen around. Sedentary lifestyle over time is going to decrease your cardiovascular function, so your heart has to work faster to make up for the inefficient pumping action, which is the stroke volume that we referred to earlier. Also, poor nutrition can cause plaque buildup and blockage over time. That certainly can take a toll on your heart. And also any risk factors, hypertension, diabetes, anything like that can certainly have a negative effect on your cardiovascular health as well. So knowing those things, we like to find the most appropriate way to establish heart rate ranges. And here at My Bariatric Solutions, we utilize cardiopulmonary exercise testing. And this is also what we use to obtain your surgical clearance, but it also gives us very valuable insight into your exercise tolerance and how hard your heart is working at certain workloads. So we're able to accurately give patients safe heart rate ranges based on the testing parameters. Now, if there are any negative risk factors like we spoke of earlier, we're able to safely prescribe exercise around those because we can see full well what your heart is capable of during the exercise test. I want everybody to know that this testing is available to all patients. If you test in-house with us, you'll go through this as well. But it's also offered post-operatively if anybody would like to come back in and retest, find out if they've made improvements into their peak VO2, anything like that. We're certainly able to do serial testing and also adjust those heart rate ranges as you become more heart healthy and your cardiovascular performance improves after surgery. So calculating heart rate zones, there's certainly a couple ways to do that. Like I mentioned, we use the CPET test, which is the most accurate. It gives us heart rate zones that are prescribed as percentages of your VO2 reserve and the correlating heart rate at that time. So during your test, your cardiac output is measured by the amount of oxygen you breathe, your heart rate, and the blood pressure response, which is measured every couple of minutes. If you tested with us and you would like to know those results, please give us a call. We'd be more than happy to go over those with you. Now, if you'd like to just figure out what your heart rate ranges may be without taking the test, there's certainly another way to go about it using your heart rate reserve. These heart rate zones are calculated based on your resting heart rate and your maximum heart rate, the difference in between. Like I said, no test is needed. Only thing that's needed is your age and a resting heart rate. So if you would be interested in knowing those values just based on your resting heart rate and age, please give us a call. Myself or any of the other exercise specialists would be happy to calculate those heart rate zones for you and get those sent to you. So real quick, let's take a look at some of the different heart rate ranges. I want everybody to omit, not necessarily look at the top and the very bottom. Those are going to be our upper and lower limits. We're not going to spend much time in the upper limit, if any at all. So more or less, I want everybody to be in tune with our light, moderate, and hard heart rate ranges. Real quick, we'll just give a quick breakdown. Light is going to be around 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. Moderate, you're going to be increasing the intensity of the exercise, so it's going to move your heart rate into the 70 to 80%. And then, of course, hard and vigorous exercise is going to place you at about 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. Each of them is going to provide different benefits to your cardiovascular system as a whole. So we'll go over those in a little bit more detail. So let's take a look at low, or what we consider light intensity. The benefits here are going to improve your basic endurance. This is when you may notice that you're able to walk across the parking lot longer, walk in the grocery store longer, keep up with your kids a little bit more, some things like that. It just basically improves just your general mobility and endurance. So this heart rate zone is going to utilize both fat and carbohydrates as fuel. It's going to feel pretty comfortable, easy breathing. It's not going to feel like much of a muscle load. You may notice light sweating, but it's definitely recommended for everybody. It's great for beginners as well. Walking would be the most appropriate. Of course, we could achieve this heart rate zone on a bicycle or stretching or any other light activities. Usually these zones are going to be what you use for your warm up and your cool down, as they're going to prepare all the other muscle groups in your body for the exercise that you're about to take part in. So moving on, we'll take a look now at our moderate intensity. This is going to be a step up from the last zone. Now we're going to be walking briskly. Certainly some water aerobics, some bicycling, any of those activities where we notice the heart rate elevating slightly but still not pumping. This is going to be our moderate intensity range. So this is going to be the zone where we're going to improve our aerobic fitness and the body's ability to move and utilize oxygen. It's also going to help expand the blood vessels over time and enhance your lung capacity. It's going to make the heart stronger so you don't fatigue as quickly. It's also going to help improve the heart's pumping ability as well. So in this zone, you may notice a light muscular strain. You may start to feel your legs burning just ever so slightly. You may start to notice your breathing increase and moderate sweating as well. Now, this is certainly recommended for everybody. Um, this is certainly the exercise zone that our surgeons prefer most of our patients to exercise in leading up to surgery, as this has shown a lot of improvement in the way patients are able to heal up afterwards as well.
Here's to believing.
Now, would like everybody to notice that this is going to be the zone where you want to spend the majority of your cardiovascular exercise. So this is going to be where you want to spend about 30 to 60 minutes a day.
Hurry in because the Jeep celebration event.
Also, this is going to be the zone where it's about 70 to 80% of our max heart rate. So we're definitely starting to notice the body starting to work towards its upper limit. Now we'll move on to the next heart rate zone. This is going to be the vigorous or hard intensity.
Yeah,
It's incredible.
trying is the
Notice this is where you're going to notice much more strenuous exercises. Swimming. Marcella, can you leave your microphone muted, please? We're getting a lot of background interference. So again, these activities are going to be your aerobics classes, bicycling, jumping rope, heavy gardening, hiking, jogging, running, any of those activities. You're going to notice the benefits here. This is going to increase your maximum performance capacity. You're certainly going to notice muscular fatigue during this stage and heavy breathing. You're not going to be able to spend very long in this training zone. Usually, vigorous or hard intensity exercise usually only lasts about 1 to 10 minutes, just depending on how fit you are. And this zone is going to use mostly carbohydrates as fuel. So it's not necessarily going to be a fat burning zone. So this is definitely going to target more of the cardiovascular health and performance. So it's certainly recommended for fit users. Want everybody to know that this is going to be the zone that is referred to whenever you do HIIT training or higher intensity intervals or Tabata training. What that style suggests is you're going to start in a moderate intensity zone and use small intervals to reach vigorous intensity for short periods. So you're exercising in a moderate intensity range, you increase your speed, get your heart rate into the vigorous intensity for a short while, and then you return back to your moderate intensity zone. So that's kind of what we refer to as higher intensity interval training or Tabata training. It's very, very beneficial in burning calories. It has a great way of forcing the body to target different energy systems and use a lot of calories. You're going to notice here that this is 80 to 90% of your max heart rate. If you go much above that, you're going to be in the maximal zone. That's only going to last for about 30 seconds, so we won't touch much on that. So moving on, let's take a look at some ways that you can track your heart rate during exercise. Now, there's a lot of different heart rate monitors, fitness trackers, smartwatches, and things now that are going to keep track of all of this for you. Three main companies, certainly going to be Fitbit, Apple Watch, and Garmin. A lot of the runners and marathoners have gravitated towards the Garmin for its functionality and GPS tracking. But all of them are going to give you the benefits of your heart rate displayed in real time on your wrist. Now, they each have different functionalities as well. So if you're thinking about getting one, let me just give you a quick breakdown of what each one is capable of. I myself, I have a Fitbit Blaze. You can go in and you can actually set heart rate zones specifically through the app. So if you tested with us and you want to import those heart rate zones, you certainly have the option to do that in the app. And it'll also work for the iPhone and the Android platform. Apple Watch as well. Another great one with a lot of great functionality. Um, Unfortunately, it can only be used with the iPhone, and at this time, you're not able to go in and set accurate heart rate ranges with the current setup. Whoops. Now we'll go over the Garmin's real quick. Um, they certainly are some of the more top of the line when it comes to running and GPS tracking. All of their watches are going to give you a heart rate, but some of them you may have to wear a chest strap to actually watch the real-time display on your watch. Both of these can be used for iPhone and Android, and most of these you can go in and set appropriate heart rate zones. So if you don't have a heart rate monitor, let's go over a few quick ways that you can check your heart rate during exercise as well. First one is just going to be a real quick pulse check. Your radial pulse, you'll just take your 2 fingers, place them right underneath, about 2 centimeters underneath your thumb. Don't use your thumb to take the pulse, just use your 2 centimeters beneath your wrist. There's a couple of different ways to do this. You can count for 30 seconds, count the beats, and then multiply that by 2. You can also count for 6 seconds and multiply that by 10 as well. So there's a couple different ways to obtain that manually. Also too, I want everyone to be aware of something we utilize often in our clinic, and that's what we call the talk test. This is probably the easiest way to measure your exercise intensity without checking your heart rate or using a heart rate monitor. So basically, for this test, you just pay attention to how breathless you are during the exercise. So if you can still easily talk and carry on a conversation, that certainly means that you're engaging in light intensity exercise, which is great for a warm-up, but not necessarily for your exercise session. So what you would want to do then is increase your intensity, either your speed, up to the point where you start to notice that it's becoming more difficult for you to talk. You're having to breathe a little bit more. That's going to keep you right around that moderate intensity range. Now, on the flip side, if you're working so hard that you're having to gasp for air, that certainly may indicate that you're working out in that high, vigorous zone. You may want to slow down just a little bit to achieve that moderate intensity zone. So let's look at a few ways using your heart rate zones can help maximize your weight loss. Caloric expenditure depends on the intensity and the duration of the exercise. So the amount of calories that you're going to burn during exercise directly correlates to the heart rate and the intensity and how long you exercise. I want everybody to be aware that different heart rate zones are going to utilize different fuels. The lower zones burn fat first and then work towards carbohydrates. But it's also a good idea to target multiple energy systems. It's a great idea to work across these heart rate zones so that you maximize the amount of energy used by each system. Keep in mind, the longer you exercise, the more calories you're going to burn. Even at lower intensity, you're still going to burn calories. So depending on your level of fitness, it certainly may be more appropriate to exercise at a lower intensity for a longer amount of time, rather than a shorter, more high intensity exercise session that isn't necessarily tolerated well. Now we're going to speak a little bit more about higher intensity exercise in just a moment, and how you can use that in short bursts to help you maximize your caloric expenditure as well. So the more intense you exercise, the more calories you're going to burn. So over time, you're going to notice that your exercise tolerance will increase, and you're able to sustain more vigorous bouts of exercise for a longer period of time. I want everybody to be aware that after vigorous exercise, your body has to recover. And this stage is what we call your EPOC. This is your excess post-oxygen consumption after exercise. And the reason that this is going to be beneficial to weight loss is that when a person works out at a higher intensity, they can't sustain for a long period of time. 2 things are going to happen. Their muscles are going to begin to burn, and they start to feel out of breath. And this is going to force your body to work at a higher level and work to build its oxygen stores back up. So after those higher intensity bouts, your body continues to work for a period of 16 to 24 hours after the workout. So what this means is that after you work out and you had some of those higher intensity, sessions that you incorporated into your exercise, you're going to burn more calories than what you would have if you exercise at a lower intensity for the same period of time. So some ways to think about this is it's like maxing out your credit card. During a rest, your body has to work hard to clear away the lactic acid and pay back its oxygen debt. Exactly how much you can burn after exercising directly correlates to the duration and intensity of your workout. So this is extremely beneficial to know this. You can think of this is what you want to target. In the beginning, you want to just start slow and stay in the low to moderate intensity. But as you start to notice that your capacity is increasing and you're able to do more, you want to certainly add some of these higher intensity intervals into your exercise sessions as soon as you can. They just help burn more calories. They also help increase your metabolism, which we're certainly going to discuss in another support group, how your metabolism is affected by all of this as well and how it weighs into the equation.